Want to use sew-in interfacing but don't know how to apply it to your project? Well, follow along and I'm going to show you how. So I have this collar piece here that I want to put sew-in interfacing on. So I'm going to be using it as my template. Today, I'm going to be using a lightweight sew-in interfacing. The first thing I'm going to do is cut out my interfacing the same size as my collar piece. I'm going to be cutting out my interfacing the same size as my pattern piece because I need it to come all the way to the edge because we are going to sew this onto our fabric piece. And we need to have that seam allowance on the interfacing so that way it catches. So now I have my interfacing the same size as my fabric piece. Cutting it the same size is basically going to be the same for all your projects. We need to do this because we are going to stitch down the interfacing within the seam allowance. So that way we don't have to go back and take it out later. So if it's within the seam allowance, you're not going to see it on the outside of your project. If it was outside of your seam allowance, you would see it on the outside of your project. You would have extra stitches there. And we don't want that. We want a nice, clean project. Let's head over to the sewing machine and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. To sew your interfacing to your piece, you just want to make sure that that stitch is within your seam allowance. So if my project has a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch, I need to make sure I'm within that. So I'm going to be stitching 1/8 of an inch from the edge, just all the way around my project piece. So that way, when I need to sew my other pieces together, it's already reinforced and it's ready to go. With some projects, you could possibly sandwich your interfacing within another piece of fabric, but I really like to sit down and just make sure I attach all my interfacing pieces first. So I'm just gonna work my way all the way around the edge of the fabric, regular stitch length, and just make sure it's within my seam allowance. Backstitch at the end to make it nice and secure, and now we're done. Let's take a look at our sew-in interfacing and talk about how we would finish this project with the interfacing sewed on it. So you can see I've sewed the interfacing on really close to the edge, so that way it's within our seam allowance. So if we take our project and we put our right sides together like we normally would, and for this collar, we are going to sew these 3 sides, and I'm going to sew it at 1/4 of an inch. And you're gonna see how when we flip it right side out, you don't see that stitching line for the interfacing. So now I'm going to sew 1/4 inch around the edge of this collar. So you can see this side with the interfacing has the 2 rows of stitches, one holding the interfacing down and one holding the other piece of fabric down. And this side just has the 1 row of stitches holding the other piece of fabric down. So now if we take it and turn it right side out, you don't see any of those stitches from attaching the interfacing. So that is how you put in sew-in interfacing. It is so easy. It might take a little bit more time than the fusible, but it really makes your project nicer because it's not reinforcing the fabric, bonding it with glue. It's just an extra added layer there, still letting your outside fabric act as it normally would. If you have any questions about sew-in interfacing, leave it down below and I will get back with you as soon as I can. And if you want to know more about interfacing, make sure you check out my other video that's all about interfacings, fusible, non-fusibles, and specialties. And if you're not already a subscriber to Sewing Anastasia, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today, and I hope your sewing projects are going great. And don't forget to add me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok so that way we can stay connected and creative together. And don't forget about the sewing classes in person in my design studio here in Chicago, Illinois. And we've got our special online sewing academy coming later this spring. So keep an eye out for it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.